Cheers everyone and welcome to my first ever drawing commentary, not sure what to call it, video. I am going through the process of me doing some art and we'll just give some commentary to it and explain what I'm doing and what I'm doing wrong most of all, because there's a lot of little missteps and mishaps happening. Also, this is me climbing up a mattress. This is my Overwatch League setup actually. Usually I'm streaming in my office, but we didn't have space for the backdrop, which I'm not allowed to show if I'm doing anything outside of the Overwatch League. So we converted our guest room / hallway / wardrobe into this streaming setup room, which required me to put an entire bed up into a weird angle. So this is the new cat playground, really. The point of this video is to walk you through my personal process when I'm drawing. The tools I use to draw most of my drawings are actually just Strathmore paper. This is actually the first time I'm using this marker paper, so let's see how it goes. But I'm working a lot with Copic markers, and I figured might as well just try proper marker paper. It's supposedly not going to bleed out the color. If I'm drawing on regular paper, it would all bleed out and get really messy, and we don't want that. I like a clean look about my drawings. The other thing I use for pretty much all my drawings are those Sakura Fineliners. It's Archival ink. They come in a lot of different sizes. For the majority of the work, I'm working with the 005, which is the thinnest you can get, and I'm trying to do the thicker lines with my 0.11. Was it 0.05? Not sure about the sizes anymore, because I'm doing the commentary after I've recorded the video, and now I don't have any of my art supplies right here to actually read it off. So whatever I just said is probably right. These are the tools I'm working with, and then I'm just starting off on normal printer paper, which is like leftover paper from all the things I do, and I'm scribbling down the rough outlines. We're starting with circles. Big circle, head, smaller circles, shoulders, straight line down, just to get an idea of the, just a very rough shape of my drawing. Then we define it. All of this still done messy and with a pencil, and I'm honestly get the shape down first. I see a lot of people drawing and they start with the face or whatever. I feel like your proportions are more likely going to be off if that is your process, unless you're an actual genius. These kind of pencil sketches usually take me around, I want to say 10 to 15 minutes. After I'm done with the pencil sketch, I am going over it with a thicker liner in black so that I can use my light table to trace it onto the nice paper. I never do sketches on nice paper because I have to use the eraser way too much, actually breaking down the surface of the good paper, and that's going to ruin everything. I can't really ink it afterwards. I can't use the Copics afterwards. It will be an absolute mess. Next step is tracing. So I'm tracing my initial sketch onto the fine paper. If you do not have a light table, which by the way, they're not too costly, you can also just, head on over to your window or something, anything. Or if you have a glass table or a bigger glass plate, for whatever reason you might have a glass plate at home, you can always just put a torchlight underneath it. That is kind of what I worked with when I was younger, and I tried to trace manga characters to pretend to have drawn them myself. Now I'm just tracing off of my own drawings, and I still feel like a fraud. Very weird indeed. But this is just the easiest option rather than just completely redrawing it on the fine paper. What's the point? I've already drawn it once, don't need to do that twice. After I traced my sketch, I now will refine it a little bit, still working with a pencil here, but trying not to press down too hard on the paper. My first step after tracing my initial sketch is to take the very thinnest fine liner I have and go over the whole drawing. Afterwards, I can erase the pencil sketch. The thing is set. We're ready to go. Now it's all about patience. Because trust me, inking something with very clean and fine lines takes a lot of time. If you're working with Copics, keep something in mind. They are acting in layers, if that makes sense. So if you're going one stroke and then you're going over it again, the saturation will be more, it will get darker on that place. So keep that in mind, because otherwise it starts to look blotchy and it will have different darkness in different places. So you want to be as even as possible. And in my personal opinion, how to achieve that is not by just going zigzagging it. You have to go like by stroke, 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 stroke. So you always have like the same kind of rhythm and pattern to it, and therefore it just starts to look more even. It is nice to work with Copics because you can actually mix colors, which is quite frankly pretty cool. It's not what I'm doing in this specific drawing because I like blocky colors a lot for my drawings. I'm not comfortable with transitions, but I don't trust Copics. They still do have a mind of their own. If you've not mastered it, then you can quickly ruin a drawing very easily. I know that a lot of my drawings look simple, pretty much, because they're clean, they're very like straightforward shapes. However, that takes a lot of time, and throughout the process you will have a lot of missteps. There's a lot of accidental lines, a lot of accidental like slips, or a line is just quite straight and you're trying to somehow correct it and then it gets too thick and then you need to pivot, and there's so many of these moments. It's a very, or can be a very frustrating process. So let me walk you through my frustration with this specific piece of my Dandelion Mermaid for Mermay. This moment was incredibly frustrating, because I loved the shape I had before. I think the lines underneath the breast and the breast itself were perfectly fine the way they are. And for some odd reason, I wanted to go cute on it. I wanted to add that little extra, that little extra swing to the side. And then it just got thicker and thicker and the lines just made no sense anymore. And then I messed up the shadows and I messed up everything. So this is the moment in drawing where you need to figure out how much time have I already invested in it. Can I somehow pivot? Can I somehow save it? Can I somehow cover this mistake? Sometimes that's doable. Sometimes it really isn't. But with ink, this is unforgiving. I can't erase it. That's not possible. Luckily though, I am working with a lot of white ink as well in these kind of drawings because it's Mermaid. So we have bubbles and bubbles are white and I could just cover it. So I decided to try and cover that specific area in the hopes that it will not look bad. Now, after my initial attempt of covering it, I started to feel like this is looking really crowded. And quite frankly, at the end of this entire drawing, looking at it now, I'm not entirely happy with it. Quite the opposite, actually. I'm still very unhappy with it because I knew what I wanted it to look like, and it does not look like that. It's crowded. There's too much going on with the flowers and the bubbles and all the different shapes. I wanted it cleaner than that. Alas, I was running out of time and I was recording it, and I figured I might as well just record something which goes wrong, Like, I think that's a more relatable video than here is a perfect drawing and everything went right and I'm an actual genius because every line has its purpose. Like, no, that's not the case. So we just continue going over the lines and going over it, and I'm not necessarily using a thicker fine liner for it. I'm still using the thinnest one, the 005 one, for the majority of stuff, just because I don't really trust my hand. I also very often catch on things, like my hand itself either catches on the paper or my Fitbit watch catches on some corner, or I'm breathing too heavily and then it somehow moves. So if you have a glove to draw, which I actually use if I'm doing any digital art on my Wacom tablet, then maybe put on the glove. It could potentially actually help you. I personally just prefer not doing it, even though I'm left-handed, and that's bad because I have a tendency of smearing the ink all over the place, and I once again had to try and fix it, which I did with white ink, which was semi-successful. It looks okay from afar, and I will be doing prints of this one, so I can actually in the end just Photoshop it out if I made a huge mistake. But I'd rather not, I want the original piece to look as good as can be. Now, I personally work with a lot of circles. I like dynamic shapes, I like organic shapes, and the circles they bring joy to me. I don't know what it is, but they're fun to draw. They're hard to draw because straight lines and circles, you can see when it's off. It looks wonky very quickly. Now, how long did this whole process take me? Well, for the initial sketch, the pencil sketch that is, that was 10 to 15 minutes. Then we did the first draft with just rough color on shitty paper and thick lines in order to trace it. That took me another, I'd say 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's all right. So at this point we spent, what, 30 minutes. That's fine. Now we're tracing it. The tracing is quick, obviously, a few minutes. Then we have to make it neat with pencil still. So you very lightly work on this more elaborate pencil sketch, making sure that everything is exactly the way you want it to be once it's inked. That process takes a little longer. So now we're at like maybe another 20 minutes or something. Maybe even half an hour. Just, you know, making sure it's as clean as possible. I do a very thin ink and then I erase the initial sketch. And then I'm using Copics for the color. That's gonna take another half an hour at least, maybe even 45 minutes. After we colored it, we actually have to do the line work. And this is the real deal. Like, this is what takes a lot of time. But also, this is where you can, you know, fix a few mistakes you did with the coloring. Because sometimes the color, you know, overshot, bled, or sometimes you smudge something accidentally because you put the color too close or above the black lines, and they have a tendency to smear. They're not supposed to. Technically, I should be able to draw over these fine liners, these ink liners, without it like smearing the color off, but sometimes it does. So just try not to draw directly over it and just stick within your box as best as you can without ruining the look of the actual color. But yeah, this is the process where you can fix a lot of things, which I'm very grateful for. So this is usually the most crucial part, because this is the part where you really start messing up. And this is how I drew this Dandelion inspired mermaid for Mermay 2020, and she is joining the squad of many more mermaids this very month. I was a little bit pressed for time in this video, so I couldn't actually explain as much as I would have liked to, and quite frankly I kind of struggled to record the process, and there was a slew of issues I was having. For my next video, drawing video that is, I would very much like to explain a little more and teach a little more if that is something you are interested in. Just let me know in the comments below if you want to have some sort of art tutorials, more of a how to draw XYZ, and also let me know what XYZ should be. I want you guys to be inspired and tell me what you want to learn to draw, and I see if I can help. Of course, I'm only operating in my very own style, which isn't everyone's cup of tea, I understand, but I will also try to make it a little bit more general. Why did I draw a dandelion? Actually, I don't know. I don't even like the flower very much. I find it quite annoying. It smells weird too. You ever smell the dandelion? Dandelions smell weird.